To Pennsylvania now, which will be a key state to watch tonight. The state's electoral 20 votes are an important piece of the roadmap to winning the White House for either candidate. Both candidates have held numerous rallies in the battleground state. In 2016, President Trump won Pennsylvania by less than 1 percentage point. Now, experts say the president may need to win it again to secure a second term. For more on this, I want to bring in Sean Sullivan. He's a CBSN political contributor and national politics reporter for The Washington Post. Welcome, Sean. Great to have you with us. So you have some recent reporting about Democrats growing more anxious about Pennsylvania despite Joe Biden leading in the polls there. Can you explain what is concerning them?
Yeah, it's really a combination of factors that are making Democrats nervous and made them nervous in the last sort of 4 or 5 days leading up to Election Day. One is some fears about a surge in pro-Trump turnout in a lot of white rural counties in the state. A lot of Democrats I talked to said, look, there is excitement on the Democratic side. The Democratic base is really excited. They are very angry at President Trump. They're energized to vote for him. But they see signs that the other side is also very energized and that the president could have a strong base turnout for him. We saw at some of the rallies that he held over the weekend that he had some big crowds. So this is one of the things that's making Democrats nervous about Pennsylvania. The other thing is, it just looks like it's tightening. When you look at the polls, Biden is winning, but not by quite as much as he was a few weeks ago. That makes some Democrats nervous. They're nervous about Republican efforts to place limits on the voting. They're nervous about some of the stuff they saw in Philadelphia last week, some of the looting, some of the violence in the streets. That was something that President Trump tried to seize on in the campaign and say, look, I'm the law and order candidate. Joe Biden is the chaos candidate. He's trying to portray Biden as somebody who is hostile to police and law enforcement. Biden pushing back strongly against that. So it's this combination of factors that's making Democrats really, really nervous about Pennsylvania. And a lot of them acknowledge, look, what happened 4 years ago still is in their minds. They feel like, hey, we've seen this movie before. We're afraid of how it's going to end. They're still stung by that loss 4 years ago, Trump winning by the narrowest of margins. And a lot of them didn't see it coming. And so this time they're looking for the signs. And they do see some in the final days that are making them nervous as we head into the final stretch.
Mm-hmm. Well, Sean, let's get a little into the weeds here and talk about some of the specific counties in Pennsylvania, because there are at least 7 counties in the state which don't even begin counting mail-in ballots until tomorrow. Are these counties populous enough that this in and of itself could delay when we know the results from Pennsylvania?
Well, one of the variables that we look at with Pennsylvania right now is that when you look at other swing states, Florida, for example, we're expecting to see results a lot sooner potentially than we are in Pennsylvania. And the reason for that is Pennsylvania does not start tallying its ballots, processing its ballots in advance. And as you point out, in some counties that could be key, the counting may not even begin until tomorrow. This is a complaint that Democrats have and that they worry about. And it depends on the margin of the race in Pennsylvania. If it's a close race, it could come down to some of these key counties. Democrats now bracing, worried that the president might try to declare victory, even if the numbers are not in, even if there is not evidence that he has won Pennsylvania. So there's a lot of uncertainty about when we'll actually know who won the state of Pennsylvania. And given the delay in counting, at least compared to other states, a lot of people are not expecting to see a result tonight in Pennsylvania. In fact, the Biden campaign held a briefing with reporters earlier in the day where they said, look, they're not expecting a prompt result in Pennsylvania, but it's a state that both sides are heavily, heavily watching. They've been campaigning there heavily the last couple of days. 20 electoral votes. If there's one state that matters most to both sides right now, it's Pennsylvania. And so a lot of scrutiny on what happens there today and in the next several days, potentially, if we don't have an outcome tonight.
Absolutely. And Sean, President Trump has said that he's going in with his lawyers if results aren't in by tonight. But what sort of legal action could he take? Because results don't legally have to be in by tonight.
That's right. And we've seen, even leading up to Election Day, a lot of back and forth on both sides, a lot of legal challenges. There was one recent one that was a victory for Democrats. Republicans tried to argue that there should be limits in terms of when the ballots have to be in by. So we could see some more legal fallout depending on what happens in specific counties. You could see challenges to ballots, things of that nature. So both sides are really, really gearing up. Democrats are hoping, look, given the polls that they've seen over the past few days, they hope that this is a victory that is comfortable enough for Joe Biden that it doesn't open the door to any sort of legal challenge by the president, by his team. But again, they have been very, very nervous about the state. And all you really have to do to see how close things are in Pennsylvania is look at how much time the candidates have spent there. President Trump barnstorming the state over the weekend, Joe Biden spending much of Sunday and Monday there. And he's back there again today. He was campaigning in Scranton, his birth city, a place that he has put sort of at the center of his pitch as a working class guy. So really the amount of time and energy that is being spent by both sides on Pennsylvania speaks volumes about where they see this race and which state this could potentially come down to.
Thank goodness the new owners of his childhood home there in Scranton appear to be Biden supporters. They let him in and they put his signs up on the lawn. That works out to his advantage. But, I'm just wondering if you could put into context for us how significant winning Pennsylvania would be for each of the candidates tonight, even though it's unlikely, as we've been discussing, that we will get the results for Pennsylvania tonight. How significant would that be?
It's huge for both sides. When you look at the map and you look at the math for both of these candidates and you ask, how do they get to 270 electoral votes? So on the Republican side, for President Trump, he's facing an uphill climb in two upper Midwestern states that he won in 2016, Michigan and Wisconsin. Those are looking like really, really tall hills for him to climb right now. And so if he's not able to hold on to those states, his campaign has to ask itself, what is our path here? Well, the path is Pennsylvania. If they can win Pennsylvania, if they can upset Biden in Pennsylvania, and then hold on to the states in the South that they were able to win, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, they're hoping to do well in Arizona, even though we've seen some polls that show Biden up in Arizona. And of course, Texas is another battleground. But if they can hold those states and win Pennsylvania, then you see a path for President Trump. If Trump is not able to win Pennsylvania, it is very, very difficult, if not impossible, to see his path to 270 votes. On the Republican side, that's why it's crucial. Now, you look at Joe Biden on the Democratic side. His campaign advisors today are arguing, look, we have multiple paths in front of us. Some of those paths involve Pennsylvania. Some of those paths don't. And they look at states like Arizona that look much more competitive and favorable to Democrats than they did a few years ago. Places like Georgia, Texas, they're competitive in Florida. They see multiple different paths to 270 votes. But the most plausible one does seem to involve Pennsylvania right now. And so if they don't win Pennsylvania, all of a sudden, you're looking at a lot of scrutiny on a state like Arizona, looking at a lot of scrutiny at a state like Florida, Georgia, North Carolina. So, when you look at the overall balance, it does seem to be more of a must win for President Trump than it does for Joe Biden. But it's certainly a really, really huge state on the Biden side, too, because it gets a lot iffier for Joe Biden tonight if he does not win the state of Pennsylvania.
All right, Sean Sullivan, thank you so much. We appreciate your insight.
Good to be with you.